Good morning, comrades. It is Saturday morning. Doing a special show today. How's everybody doing? Uh, yeah, Saturday show. Figured because I was out on Thursday, I do a little makeup. But yeah, how's everybody doing? It's the weekend. You know, if you work a regular 9 to 5 during the week, you might have today off. Time to chill, hang out, relax, hang out with us. So yeah, here I am. Just hanging out. Did y'all hear the unbelievable news that our president, Joseph Robinette Biden, he tripped on the dang stairs, folks. He fell down not once, not twice, but thrice on the dang stairs while getting on Air Force One. Of course, I have video. Here he is. Hold on. Let me pull it back all the way. We're getting the whole deep video of this. Here we go. All right, here he comes, getting out of the helicopter, walking with this dude in a giant jacket. First off, I think it's very funny. Just to before we get started, I think it's very funny that we just like film the president like every second of every day of his entire life. That he's not like in his bedroom or like some kind of secret like somewhere. Um, but anyway, here comes Joe Biden. Because this is him. Like, otherwise, this would not matter. This is just people using film or using video. Hi, Jenny. You know, just like videoing this for no reason. But here comes Joe Biden walking. You know, he looks fine. Everything looks cool. And there's so much like weird ritual to this. You like check with both the dudes, you salute, you start going up the stairs. Oh, okay, he could have recovered. Okay, all right. Oh, and down. That is the painful part right there. Like you can tell, like when he's down on that knee on that third trip, like that's when you know he's just like, this is on camera. Joseph Biden goes down. Down goes Biden. Oh, there he is. But then he just popped right up. Folks, this is gigantic news. And then salute. Right. I forgot about the hilarious salute at the end. Joe Biden trips on the stairs going up. Let's watch it one more time. Let's bring it back here. All right, let's analyze each one of these trips. Okay, this is very, very important. Let's watch each one. All right, first one, let's see. What causes this trip? This dude's in the way, so you can't really see exactly what's going on. It looks like he's going up kind of quickly. I wish there was like a way to do like half 0.5 speed on here. Let's watch the replay. Okay. Okay, classic. Okay, wait, classic. I think it looked like his left foot kicked, and then his right knee buckled. So that's like the first part of this. And then the second one was brutal. The second one was actually more brutal than I remember. Because look, if you look after he had gotten up, he's trying to like do a swift recovery. It looked like he tried to do like a skip step or something. And he just totally missed it. And then down. That's the worst part. Down on that leg, he kind of rolls on his arm, and then hard to come back from that. Hard to come back from that. Morning, Jenny. We are analyzing. We're doing a deep analysis of Joe Biden tripping going up the stairs on Air Force One. So if anybody's got any deep insight, please add that here. But worse than Fox News. Wow. Okay. Wow. All right, there he is. Dusts himself off a little bit, and even after going down, a fairly nice recovery, and then make sure to salute near the top of that stairs on Air Force One. Oh, Joseph Robinette Biden. There's the president of the United States. So huge Gerald Ford energy. There was also so this is from Yamiche Alcindor, who is a reporter for I think she's with NewsHour now. She used to be with the Times. She says that Joe Biden is the press secretary, or the deputy press secretary for Biden, says that he's doing just fine after tripping up the stairs on Air Force One. She said aboard the plane, quote, "It was very windy. I almost fell coming up the stairs myself. He is doing 100%. He's doing fine. He's preparing for the trip just fine." So Joe Biden is fine. He's in. He will play on Sunday. He's not going to miss any time. No injuries. But the wind, it was so windy that he fell. I love that they're blaming the wind. That's incredible. Rolling ankles and busting knees, poor corrupt. I mean, that third spill though. That third, I mentioned this a minute ago, but I can't get over it. Like when he went down, he kind of like smacked his knee and his elbow. That's oof. All right, enough of that. Enough of that. He tripped on the dang stairs. Joseph Robinette Biden. Uh, I do think that I don't know. The takes that some people have been very interesting to me on this. Some folks are like a little, yeah, that did definitely hurt. Like that third one when he smacked his elbow on the ground, he like his shin went down on hard. That hurts. Like that, I've done that one before. Um, but like, there's a lot of people who are like trying to like either make this a bigger deal than it is and a smaller deal. I just think it's funny. Like I don't know, the dang Democrats are like saying that, like, oh yeah, sure, make fun of the 80-year-old man for falling or whatever, and then like the Republicans are like, you see, this is why he's weak, and I don't know. I find that the whole thing to be very funny. I mean, like my take on this is very simple. When the president of the United States falls, you laugh at him. He's supposed to be the powerful, whatever person that has the nuclear football. He's in control of the military, like all the bad stuff. So he's just supposed to be the target of all of every bit of your your contempt. So Joe Biden tripped on the dang stairs. I can't believe we did 10 minutes on that. All right. There's a couple of stories I wanted to get to. I do want to talk about this first. So this is a story that I missed yesterday, but I want to talk about now. We were too busy talking about the incredible potential fatherhood of Stan Lane, of Lauren Boebert, and the absolutely um, sort of shocking story surrounding that. We missed this story in the process. So here's okay. So from what I understand, like Jimmy Fallon is one of the most like corporate chill type of these, especially of these late night type comedian show people, right? Like he's definitely, there's so many like cringe videos of him. There's one by Vic Berger. Maybe we watch it later. Of him like forcing laughing, doing a lot of like weird forced pratfalls, and always making sure to get his plugs in for his gear. Well, here's here they are. He's on he's on his show, The Tonight Show, and he brought in John Oliver. And let's take a look.
Speak from your heart, Alexa. Your rotten heart.
Oh my God. This is clearly not a commercial for this.
Look at how uncomfortable he looks. So John Oliver is talking like a little bit of trash about Alexa, and the part that's about to happen. Keep in mind the workplace conditions of Amazon and the unionization drive and all of the union busting that's happening in Bessemer, Alabama right now. Watch this.
Oh, in which case, I've got another one. Alexa, how bad are Amazon working conditions?
Alexa, stop. Sure. Alexa, stop. Here we go. All right.
No, what was Alexa even saying?
Alexa, stop. Sure. Alexa, stop.
Alexa was saying, "I'm not sure."
No, Alexa. No, Alexa. Alexa, what is union
No, Alexa.
busting?
This is me time now. Alexa, stop. Stop, please. Alexa, please listen to me.
Just like so cringe and so awkward of him to just like he's so scared to like piss off Amazon. It's really, really weird. Like, I don't know. Is his show like sponsored by Amazon? Does he like not want to just piss off powerful people?
Not a commercial for this.
Because like John Oliver is just trying to make a joke about. I mean, and like John Oliver, you know, he's hit and miss. He sometimes will have some good bits, and sometimes he'll do some not so good things. But here he's like got a very, very clear target. He's asking Alexa what Amazon's working conditions are like, and like that's just too much for Jimmy Fallon. He can't stand it. Look at him, and he's like trying to be like charming or whatever, and he's just not good at it. Watch one more time.
This is clearly not a commercial for this.
So cringe.
Oh, in which case, I've got another one. Alexa, how bad are Amazon working conditions?
Alexa, stop. Sure. Alexa, stop. Here we go. All right,
no, Alexa. No, Alexa. Alexa, what is union
No, Alexa,
busting?
this is me time now.
What?
Alexa, stop. Stop, please, Alexa.
There was a bit more that happened on the back end.
Doing Hey Robot.
Of course, it was. I was going to say a pleasure, but it wasn't. It wasn't. I really hope, Jimmy, you didn't cut out my question about what union busting is.
Doing Hey Robot.
Got his ass. Like seriously. like I don't know, just get it. Like Jimmy Fallon is just I like just taking all of the bullets for Amazon, like bringing up union busting and the like blocking and the working conditions and all that other stuff. Kind of incredible. You'll probably notice that I'm kind of taking it a little bit easy today. That's fine on Saturday. Hope you're enjoying that. I got a couple of actual stories though that I wanted to touch on. But first off, how's everybody doing? What's going on? I know we got Ginny in chat. We got Jenny. That's the two that I've seen so far. What's going on? How's y'all Saturday? All right. Oh, I just got a huge update. We have 69 subscribers on the GMC page. 69 subscribers. That is very exciting. It's a very nice number of subscribers to have. You never heard a joke by Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon is the joke. You see? Got his ass. All right. Now, yesterday we talked about the paternity of like controversy of Stan Lane and Lauren Boebert. One of the things that came up is that Lauren Boebert's mother is deeply tied up in the QAnon. And this is a story from the Colorado Times Recorder. It's talking about Lauren Boebert's connection to QAnon. So promoting QAnon-linked conspiracy, Boebert says recognitions will soon allow GOP to control Congress. Uh-oh. Which is just, I mean, it's QAnon moon logic, just like always. You're doing fantastic. Excellent. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert put a Q-flavored cherry atop an already controversial town hall last Monday night when she claimed to have insider knowledge of a QAnon-linked conspiracy theory promoted by the Epoch Times that secret documents declassified in the final days of the Trump administration will expose wrongdoing by Trump's enemies and lead to resignations and arrests, following Republicans to gain a majority in the U.S. House and Senate prior to the 2022 election. So that's really interesting for a couple of reasons. I'm not sure if if y'all are familiar with the Epoch Times. It's a media outlet. They have like TV and news now. I think it's Epoch and not Epic. It's definitely not Epic in my opinion. But it's made by a group called Falun Goon, which is like, it's kind of a cult. Let's see, Falun Goon. How do you spell it? Did I spell it? Jimmy Fallon Goon. Falun Goon. I gotta find the spelling. Oh, I gotta find it. Anyway, they they sort. So if anybody's seen like the hold on. Falun Gong. So they're, yeah, it's like a new religious movement, and China, they're very, very like cult-like in behavior. They are very, very opposed to the Chinese government, the CPC, the Chinese. I mean, sorry, Communist Party of China. And they run the Epoch Times, and they like will run like extremely right-wing content to sort of discredit, basically to bolster a lot of right-wing media and a lot of wing ideas, including QAnon, despite whether or not they actually believe it. But that's sort of like how this works. Anyway, Boebert is a Republican and claims her sources are close to Trump. And this is a quote. And this is, in my opinion, with that information that I have, I believe we will see resignations begin to take place, and I think we can take back the majority of the House and Senate before 2022 when all of this is ended, Boebert said at the Montrose event. Her startling claim, first reported by Dennis Anderson of the Delta County Independent, came in response to the last question of the evening. An unidentified man wanted to know if there will ever be perp walks for Hillary Clinton. Jesus Christ, they still want to lock her up. All these years later, they still want to lock Hillary Clinton up. They want if there'll ever be perp walks for Hillary Clinton and the high-level officials like former heads of the FBI and CIA. Listen to the question. Okay, here's the video of the question. I can't hear it.
I'm talking about the former head of the FBI. I'm going to answer part of this. Head of the CIA, Hillary Clinton. Yes. Are these people, will they ever be held accountable and ever have a perp walk? So we are seeing a lot of ugliness uncovered, a lot of corruption exposed, but I believe that we are going to start seeing gifts and callings of righteous men and women exposed to counter all of this. Gifts that have remained dormant on the inside of people are going to start rising up. People are going to start fulfilling these positions that they never saw themselves in, doing their part to serve their country. Now, I want to tell you,
I heard someone who is in very close contact with President Trump and the ins and outs of the White House under that administration talk to the owners of Epic Times. They talked to the owners of Epic Times and they said, don't change anything.
Epic
you
Times.
are right over the target. So anyone who tries to tell you that this is a fringe newspaper, media, don't listen to them. I mean, I have very
She's
good
doing
sources
propaganda
that
for the Epic
really
Times.
good information. Is it 100%? I don't know, but it's really good information. And we all know that there was information that was declassified just a few days before President Trump left office. And I know someone who is involved in declassifying that, and this person is getting very tired of waiting on the DOJ to do something about it. And we will be hearing about it very, very soon. And this is my opinion. With that information that I have, I believe we will see resignations begin to take place. And I think we can take back the majority in the House and the Senate before 2022 when all of this is done.
So she's like boosting up specifically the Epoch Times, and then she's like talking about how, yeah, we're gonna start doing perp walks and we're gonna be in charge of Congress because a bunch of folks are gonna, like, you know, the child traffickers or whatever are gonna be perp walked out of there. Boebert's belief that the wave of resignations from Congress will allow Republicans to reclaim power before the next election is sure to raise some eyebrows. Epoch Times, the Epoch Times, identified as, quote, the leading purveyor of right-wing misinformation by the New York Times, exploded in size and influence during the Trump administration, both by embracing the president and promoting innumerable conspiracy theories, many of which are linked to QAnon. The narrative referenced by Boebert appears rooted in the Spygate/Russiagate conspiracy theories, of which the Epoch Times is a huge proponent of both, per the New York Times. Yeah, very, very, very wackadoodle. There's white supremacists in the UK support the Q shit to bring down the US as a leader. Yeah, I mean, like that's kind of a part of the whole thing, right? The publication has been one of the most prominent promoters of, quote, Spygate, a baseless conspiracy theory involving claims that Obama administration officials illegally spied on Trump's 2016 campaign. Publications and shows linked into the Epoch Times have promoted the QAnon conspiracy theory and spread distorted claims about voter fraud. Russiagate is a disinformation campaign denying Russian election meddling and falsely claiming that the accusation of such were created by former President Obama and Hillary Clinton to discredit Trump. Neither it nor Spygate is factual. So that's an interesting thing too, because this paper has taken a line specifically that Spygate's not true, like Russiagate's not true. I'm inclined to agree that there's not like any direct, like any more meddling that would normally happen between states during like elections. There's nothing weird going on here, more so than like ever, despite the fact that Democrats constantly like to roll out that since they lost in 2016, it must have been because of Spygate. It couldn't be because we rolled out a terrible candidate in Hillary Clinton or whatever. So that's the full text of Boebert's answer. Before the video emerged, Boebert's event in Montrose had already made headlines, and they haven't been good. First, her campaign only announced the meeting to local Republicans and asked them not to share the invite publicly. That's not abnormal, actually. They do that quite a bit. Like, they just want to keep these things small and controlled, so the person that's there doesn't look like they actually are. They don't want to get like hardball questions. They want softball questions to make their people look good and rally the troops. When a video recorded by the Montrose Daily Press showed her appearing to defend the extremists who stormed the U.S. Capitol, saying that they were trying to petition their government, Boebert's office denies she was speaking about the January 6th insurrectionists, but instead meant there's a security fence in place since then, which prevents the public from accessing congressional offices. Shows that Democrats have been believe anyone trying to petition their government is an insurrectionist. That's really interesting too. I actually didn't see that. Oh gosh, what a great picture. Yeah. So here's the video of her. This is a similar situation. talking about the insurrectionist question. So now remember what you just said was that, by the way, she's got like a pistol strapped to her leg. Like she's like ready to like shoot somebody already. Like she's Laura Croft or something.
So what amendment's next? We already see in Washington, D.C., you can't petition your government. You're an insurrectionist if you do that.
So remember, like there were people who stormed the Capitol, broke into the Capitol. I believe 6 or so people died. Broke down the door. There was like video of a cop like fighting for his life, and she's basically saying that these people were going to petition their government.
See, you can't petition your government. You're an insurrectionist if you do that. The office that I sit in the Longworth building at our nation's capital isn't my office. That's your office. You pay for that office. And Nancy Pelosi won't let you come and petition your government. Speak to me in your office. How disgraceful is that?
Following, Boebert's communication director Ben Stout issued the following statement, quote, Representative Boebert's remarks were not referencing the events of January 6th, which Representative Boebert has repeatedly condemned. Yeah, right. Like they say she condemned it when she was actually like telling people, like giving people tours of the Capitol prior to it happening. See her tweet where she said, "I support the rule of law and denounce all acts of violence." That's according to the press statement. Her remarks last night were criticizing the fact that Americans are not allowed to meet with their elected representatives since the Capitol is still surrounded by razor wire. The U.S. Capitol Police informed the Sergeant at Arms on March 15th that there does not exist a known credible threat against Congress or the Capitol complex that warrants the temporary security fencing. I mean, I don't think they necessarily need the security fencing anymore, but I can understand why it's up. Boebert's mention of her office and Speaker Nancy Pelosi was in reference to the ongoing security measures in place around the Capitol complex due to the threats posed by extremists who believe the conspiracy theory that the election was stolen from former President Trump. Yeah, what were they petitioning their legislators about exactly? Huh. The National Guard troops currently stationed in D.C. are there at the request of the U.S. Capitol Police, the law enforcement agency responsible for security at the complex. The request to extend the deployment follows the discovery of a plot by a 3% extremist militia members to attack the Capitol. Wait, there was another attempted attack or planned attack? Possible plot. Okay, this is from military.com. Okay. Possible. Okay, so that's cited. During Boebert's campaign, she not only expressed her support for far-right militia movement, but coordinated with them locally, requesting and receiving security help from militia members at campaign events. Holy shit. I am the militia. 2A, we the people. God, she is a nightmare. Following the storming of the Capitol on January 6th, during which the Congresswoman and her mother were both inside the complex, Boebert faced a considerable criticism for live tweeting the location of House members, including Speaker Pelosi, where armed insurrectionists marauded through the halls of Congress. We're locked down in the House chambers. The Speaker has been removed from the chambers. That's why are you doing tweets in the middle of all this? Federal enforcement continues to investigate cell phone records showing communication between insurrectionists and some elected officials inside the Capitol on January 6th, presumably because of her tweets. Bummer is one of a handful of Republican lawmakers whose names are linked to the investigation, but she has denied involvement in the attack. Oh my God. You really want everyone. I remember when everyone thought Bush and Sarah Palin with the bottom. By the way, the other attack was to the State of the Union. Oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah. So here's the thing: is that like Sarah Palin and John McCain are the ones that opened the door for all this stuff, right? They kind of like when they brought Sarah Palin on to just start, spewing her bullshit. that was like a flag saying that, like, okay, all of the like weirdo, because there's not a whole lot of difference between Sarah Palin and Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of that, radical. What was it, the Freedom Caucus or something like that? They're all of the same idea, and they're all sort of like of the same sort of QAnon background, like proto QAnon, like they have these conspiracy theories and all these other things that they sort of operate on. And yeah, I mean, it's just one and the same. It was just that was when the door opened and the demons came in. Oh, wow. Well, since we're having fun today, let's talk about oh, I'm doing good, by the way, Ginny. I'm doing pretty good. It's Saturday. So I was just taking a little extra time doing an extra show, having a little bit of fun. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the woke mob got to her, folks. The woke mob got to her. She is, she was, this is yesterday, she was locked out of Twitter, and Democrats are moving to take her. They're going to cancel her like Dr. Seuss. They're going to take her out of Congress like Dr. Seuss. So Marjorie Taylor Greene temporarily locked out of Twitter as Democrats move to expel her from Congress. Not the first time the controversial Georgia Congresswoman has been suspended from the social media platform. In a message on social media site Telegram, Marjorie Taylor Greene says she's been temporarily barred from posting on Twitter from her personal account. A screenshot of an account alert says that Twitter has temporarily limited some of her account features for violating the site's rules, meaning that the Georgia representative cannot tweet, retweet, or like posts. Oh no, the ban. Okay, it's only 12 hours. Okay, so she's not canceled. Like she's canceled for a minute. The ban lasts 12 hours and will be removed around lunchtime on Friday. It does not appear to include Ms. Greene's congressional Twitter account. The spokesperson for Ms. Greene confirmed to the Gateway Pundit, absolutely like terrible website that definitely pushes a lot of Q and conspiracy theories. Confirmed to the Gateway Pundit that the lawmaker is locked out of her Twitter account. It is unclear what specific tweets led to her suspension. And yeah, there's a bill to remove her from Congress. Who put it forward? Jimmy Gomez. Quote, I take no joy in introducing this resolution, but any member who incites political violence and threatens our lives must be expelled, said Mr. Gomez. I'm not doing this for shock value. The resolution will require a 2/3 majority of support from lawmakers in the House to remove Ms. Greene from the office. It does not appear to have that level of backing. Yeah, this is just show. It's a show. So yeah. I wanted to pull up another video. We watched a video from Second Thought last week, and he did one just now on on the American education system. We'll go through that.
This episode is made possible by CuriosityStream. Get free access to Nebula. In the United States, we like to pride ourselves on being the best at things. We spend more money than any other nation on our military, healthcare, and education. Unfortunately, simply throwing money at things doesn't make you.
And I wanted to watch this video because I'm a teacher, and I wanted to like. I think there's parts of like when people talk about education, they often it's very very complicated, and I like there are parts of this that I might be sort of critical of. So let's take a look.
Best at them. Our military, despite having the budget of the next 10 biggest spenders combined, is tremendously wasteful and is constantly used as a destabilizing force in regions we wish to dominate or exploit. Our healthcare system, despite occupying the world's #1 spot for per capita expenditure, is routinely ranked the worst in the developed world in terms of access, efficiency, and effectiveness. While each of these topics deserves its own video, in this episode, we're going to focus on the US education system, why it's
Okay, pretty good setup talking about how capitalism is sort of the frame of all this, and talking about how capitalism impacts the education system. That's a good start.
failing our students and teachers, and what we can do to fix it. Think back to your time in school. What do you remember? Early mornings, long windowless hallways punctuated by locked doors, a strictly regimented schedule. Your school life was dictated by the authority of the teacher, who conditioned you with countless commands every day. Sit down, open your textbook to page 10, stop talking, line up. You were punished for speaking to classmates, making a joke, or coming in a single minute late. You had to get permission to use the restroom. Class started with a bell and ended with a bell. There's another kind of institution that follows a similar structure. It shouldn't come as a surprise that in the US, many of the same architects who designed our prisons also designed our schools. For many of us, school is an unpleasant memory. Sure, most of us had fun with friends we made in class, but that fun was exclusively outside of school hours. Odds are the memory of your education itself is pretty negative.
That's probably broadly true for a certain amount of people, but it's not something that like it's not universal. It might be like 50-50. Some people have like good memories of school, but I don't know.
Besides the experience of attending American school, the outcomes the system produces are also less than stellar. Despite our cultural obsession with getting American students to perform well in standardized
Here we go. Okay, we're gonna get it on testing.
our scores fall squarely in the middle of the pack compared to other industrialized nations. This single-mindedness also has a more critical consequence. By demanding our teachers simply prepare students for testing rather than fostering an actually effective learning environment, we end up with students who not only forget everything they crammed into their heads immediately after taking the test, but who also lack the skills required to learn effectively.
Okay, so this is a good like point here, like the fact that all of school at this point, like right now in the US, almost all of the school year is geared towards like like doing these standardized tests at the end of the year. And a huge chunk of teachers' evaluations are like laying the balance, how much like whether or not a kid gets promoted or what kind of classes they're going to get in are going to dependent on this, and they're not always dependent to they're not always dependent on what's actually like where kids are at and what they can actually learn. Yeah, education is fun if you actually educate them. Yeah, learning is interesting if you can do it the right way. Which I mean, I think that there's a little bit of a flatness to like it isn't everything, and like it isn't directly like every like order that the teacher gives. It's not as like rigid, I think, as was initially sort of like laid out, but that is the sort of broad strokes idea.
The students aren't the only ones suffering. The US has exceptionally high teacher turnover due to low pay and long hours, and compounding the problem, a teacher shortage. So,
Okay, so the low pay, like teachers do make like slightly, I guess, like right around in the middle of the pack. They make definitely less. We make less than people who are like educated to the same level. So we have like worse than, but the hours thing is crazy because teachers are basically like expected to work off the clock. You're expected to, you know, plan on your off time, and you're expected to plan during the summer and these other things. So it's like a really I mean, it's a really abusive, set of expectations because you're essentially paid for you're paid for like, you know, 8-hour day or whatever. But I mean, if you're working 10-12 hours, then you get nothing for that.
to sum up the problem, our
And
students
so people, either don't stay in the profession very long, or they quit, or they just sort of like suck it up. A lot of people suck it up and keep doing it, but there is a huge teacher shortage.
unhappy, perform poorly, and don't gain the critical skills they need. And our teachers are unhappy, overworked, and we don't have enough of them to meet a growing need. A country depends on its young people, those who will grow up and take the reins from the previous generations. So why are we failing them so badly? Before we get into some potential solutions, we need to understand the three main problems plaguing the American education system. These three problems are the system's outdatedness, its underfunding, and its privatization. The lack of funding and the rapid privatization of the education system go hand in hand. So let's start there. When you think of the average school, whether elementary, middle, or high school, you're generally thinking about a public institution. That is, a school that is federally funded and tasked with providing education to all people of the appropriate age in a given school district free of charge. Public schools have existed in the US since before it officially became a country, but the first Board of Education was established in Massachusetts in the year 1837. The person spearheading the education initiative, Horace Mann, believed that public education was the best way to overcome poverty, bridge social gaps, and prepare young people to enter the workforce. The Federal Department of Education was established 30 years later, with the goal of standardizing and helping to implement education across the country. What may be surprising to some is that private schools actually predate public schools in the US. As early as the 1660s, failing them so badly.
The idea of a public school is like
the person young people to standardizing and
like early. It's like some of the earliest sort of like social programs that we've had in the U.S. Like, it's like like before there was even like a safety net, before there was anything like that. Like, I guess there was largely in the post, like in the midst of Reconstruction, I suppose, was when public schools started popping up, and it was like a proto social program, I guess.
Helping to implement education across the country. What may be surprising to some is that private schools actually predate public schools in the US. As early as the 1660s, individual teachers were offering their services to young people and adults as a way to supplement their income. This private schooling often took place in the evenings, and was less structured than typical day school. By the beginning of the American Revolution, private schools had become pretty well established and were favored by those who could afford their fees. Fast forward to more modern times, and like with healthcare and infrastructure, we begin to see a problem with accelerating privatization. The practice of privatization is simple. It entails the handing off of once public responsibilities to privately owned companies. Since the 80s, there's been a consensus, a deeply flawed one, but a consensus nonetheless, that there's nothing the government can do that the private sector can't do better. The word better is doing some heavy lifting here. Private companies often get things done more quickly or with a greater profit, but what free market enthusiasts fail to realize is that the outcomes are incredibly damaging, as is the case with American healthcare, or extremely fragile, as evidenced by private infrastructure projects. Take the Texas power grid, for example.
Oh,
it's
that's a great
entirely
example.
deregulated. This allows them to cut costs and make a greater profit. It also sets them up for disaster, as we saw with the recent winter storm that completely knocked out the state's power and left millions stranded in freezing conditions. Of course, a crisis like this is considered an acceptable risk when there's a nice profit to be had. This free market logic has slowly seeped into the realm of education. Over the past couple of decades, various federal initiatives have provided parents the option of using federal funds to send their children to private schools, whether by providing so-called school choice vouchers or allowing for the possibility of school transfers, where students...
Yeah, charter schools are big in this. In fact, in Louisiana, we were one of the ones that were like the first, like in Orleans specifically, which is right next door to where I live. Orleans Parish, where New Orleans is, was the first. It's not all charters now. There's one school, like district-run public school, but there have been this is one of the sort of like labs for where school privatization has sort of started to take place after Hurricane Katrina specifically, and yeah, even after that, after that was done with Act 91, there was Bobby Jindal, who was the governor here, just was one of the first to start issuing vouchers for private schools that would essentially take federal funds and give that money, like public money, to private schools, just completely subsidizing private schools and defunding public schools.
Students can move from low-performing schools to higher-performing private schools. This
and critically, the language or the framework of testing is used to justify those inequalities. The testing is what you would say, like the thing that everything is geared toward, the horrible, no good thing that makes education awful and terrible. That's the thing that they would use. They would hold up that test score and hold it up to a test score from, a private school, where, people are wealthier, and the biggest tracking factor in how people perform on these tests is their socioeconomic status. It's not like how teachers are teaching. It's not anything to do with that. It's whether or not these people have resources. So essentially the fact that these schools and the people at those schools are poor are used as justification to shut down those very same schools and put the resources that would go to those schools into the hands of private schools or schools that are in better socioeconomic areas.
This has led to a number of problems. The most obvious is that by spending federal money to incentivize parents to enroll their children in private school, they've robbed public schools of badly needed funding. Why spend money to move kids around when you could simply fund the schools that are designed to be funded by that money? Because of this practice, public schools face a vicious cycle. There's not enough money to pay teachers, so teachers leave, which leads to more students in each class, which overwhelms the remaining teachers. There's not enough money for school supplies or even basic school maintenance, which leads to unsafe learning environments. These problems compound over time, which makes the schools perform worse, which then suggests to the federal government that they're doing the right thing by incentivizing the move to private schools. Okay, but if the private schools perform better and the average parent can afford them, why not just abandon public schools? There are a few reasons, some innate to how private schools operate and some based on the responsibility of the federal government. First and foremost, it has been long established that the state has a responsibility to provide access to free education to every student. This is non-negotiable, at least for now. If public schools didn't exist, there would be students who could not afford to go to private school. Since education is a right, this is unacceptable. So, for the time being, the federal government cannot reasonably get rid of public schools entirely. The other issues stem from the private schools themselves. By their very nature, private schools are not beholden to any kind of governance when it comes to what is taught within their walls. All they have to do is provide proof that their education meets basic educational standards. This has led to an upsurge in what can be considered reactionary, or as the schools prefer, traditional education. What this means in essence is that most
The 1776 project, for example.
Private schools skew intensely religious, conservative, and insular. Their student body is
I went to a couple of, Catholic schools and private schools over the years, and I mean, they literally do have like religion classes and things like that, which, I mean, if federal money is going to that, that's a bit of a problem, isn't it?
Overwhelmingly white, Christian, and wealthy. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with a parent wanting their child to get a religious education. But the problem is, in the US, Christianity has been co-opted by conservatism. Gone are the days when people understood Jesus to be a brown communist from the Middle East, who railed against the rich and preached inclusion, decency, and the value of living humbly. Most American Christians have grafted the language of conservatism onto their faith. Homophobia, racism, unfettered free market economics.
And it doesn't help when the Catholic Church comes up like from the center and supports that as well. Like when the fucking Vatican decides to say, like, actually, we don't believe that gay weddings can have blessings or whatever.
And a rabid hatred for anything that could be considered even remotely socialist. This is not by accident. The political right has adopted religious, patriotic language in an attempt to secure a large and dedicated voting bloc, evangelicals, and it's worked.
I'll never get enough of Trump hugging the flag like that. That is just one of the most incredible, like, photo, like pieces of video that I've ever seen in my entire life. It's so good.
In an attempt to secure a large and dedicated
It's
voting
so
bloc,
good. Look at him.
evangelicals, and it's worked. In modern private schools, and I should know, I attended one, it's not uncommon to see PragerU videos shown in class. It's not uncommon to see economics classes that espouse the suicidal free market ideology.
If I found a teacher that was like showing PragerU videos, I might lose my shit at them.
Friedman and Rand. History classes portray the U.S. as the good guy in every conflict, including those where we were clearly in the wrong.
Yeah, burning villages
Today's
is actually
supposedly
good.
Christian education would not be recognized as such by the Jesus of the Bible. Instead, it's a new religion, the religion of free market conservatism. It shouldn't come as a surprise that those in power are doing their best to get more students enrolled in private school. Indoctrinating them into the cult of capitalism while they're young is the only way they can produce more pro-corporate voters.
You live in South Bend, Mayo Pete's disaster. This happens to us constantly. They just shut down 2 more elementary schools in our poorest neighborhoods. God damn. Yeah, I actually have video that I found of myself actually. So they closed my school last year, like right before COVID happened. Like we didn't know that was gonna, COVID was coming like that. But I actually got walked out of a board meeting for reading a statement from my school saying like, this is why you shouldn't close our school. And I went over my time and kept talking, and they walked me out of there because since they've like basically finished the job of privatizing in New Orleans, they essentially have just like moved on to doing it in let me see if I can find it. They've moved on to doing it in Jefferson Parish, which is where I live, which is right next door. Let me see here. Here, watch that.
Heck, judging by what we've seen recently, it wouldn't come as a surprise to see public schools go the same way. The previous administration even suggested the creation of a Commission for Patriotic Education, a slate of pro-America, capitalist, imperialist propaganda. This disturbing trend towards privatization and capitalist indoctrination aside, what's perhaps the bigger problem with American education is the fact that the entire system is simply outdated. Remember the Massachusetts School Board? The one established in 1837? Well, that's when the standards for education were established. The stated goal was to educate young people. But if you take a look at how school was and is structured, it becomes more clear what education was actually for. Like it is today, the school day was strictly regimented. Teachers expected absolute obedience. The bell instructed students when the day began and ended, and punishment was doled out for any perceived non-compliance. If the students retained some basic arithmetic, great. But the real goal was to produce obedient, servile workers for the factories of the Industrial Revolution. Step onto a factory floor and what's expected? Obedience, focus, the ability to follow instructions for hours on end. The day even began and ended with a bell.
My name is Jeff Barrow.
School was then and
Here it is.
That's so wrong.
Some of my coworkers took this video.
He's talking for the schools and children. Let him be heard.
Yeah!
They ended up closing
That's
our
so
school anyway.
wrong.
and remains today an instrument to instill discipline, to mass produce agreeable little cogs for the
I was getting
industrial
walked out.
machine. The standardization of schooling ensured these cogs were nice and uniform, easily replaceable and expendable. Today, nearly 2 centuries later, factory labor is no longer the prime driver of the economy. Companies still need workers, but they demand a new set of skills.
Didn't Mayor Pete like remove a traffic like a traffic light or something like that, and somebody got murdered, and he basically blamed the kid too?
Young people entering the workforce are expected to be able to be flexible, creative, and on call at unreasonable hours. Even from a capitalist perspective,
Now he's in charge of like the entire Department of Transportation.
modern-day schooling does not adequately prepare our students for the real world. Of course, preparing students for a lifetime of servitude should not be the goal of a good education. Let's examine the main issues in regards to outdatedness. Which of these 2 hypothetical classes sounds more applicable to real life? Latin or home economics? Guess
Smart
which one is more
streets. Oh
commonly
my
taught.
god, that is like the most annoying fucking thing that you can like they like these people that are like these like rat motherfuckers who come in and they have these just like quippy terms that just basically mean austerity.
If the goal of school is to prepare
They just
kids
try
for the
and make
real world
austerity
as we're meant
cute.
to believe, we are doing our students a great disservice. Why don't we teach home economics classes? Why don't we teach high schoolers how to file taxes? What about useful things like basic first aid? We simply don't teach applicable skills. Then there's the fact that school curriculum just hasn't kept pace with advancements
Yeah, I
in
was very
modern
confused
technology.
in high
Basic
school
computer
when I
classes
had
are
to
offered
take
as
like
electives, if at
trigonometry
all.
and algebra
Even
and
less
shit.
common are video production, digital art, coding, web design, 3D modeling, and countless other modern skills. We're letting students down when we don't acquaint them with modern tools. As a personal anecdote, I have a younger sister who's shown a proclivity for drawing. Her school's art class, while led by a good teacher, doesn't even mention new digital techniques. Since I work creatively for a living, I took the liberty of teaching her a bit about digital art and apps like Procreate. Her skills have improved more in the last 2 months than in the previous 2
Wait, is
years.
this an ad?
And I'm no artist. I just told her about the app and suggested she watch some YouTube videos. Imagine if public
Okay.
schools had the funding for even a handful of art
Yeah, it's
tablets or
definitely a way to
iPads.
just like
Kids
take
could come
money
out
and
of
give
middle
it to
school with skills they could translate into
like
a
somebody's
rewarding
cousin or
career or
whatever.
hobby by the time they graduated from high school or
Oh,
college.
hold
Okay,
on.
so what are some solutions we could pursue? It's all well and good to say teach better classes, but that only addresses
do that
part of
next
the
week.
problem. The root cause of many of the issues our education system faces is that we simply don't have an incentive to teach our students. As with anything in America, if there's no financial incentive, nothing will change. The profit motive is the bottom line. Private schools have an incentive to at least prepare students for standardized testing, so that their parents will be happy and keep paying tens of thousands of dollars per year for tuition. But that education comes packaged with truly damaging ideology, so making private schools more
Pure
accessible would not be a
ideology.
long-term solution, as those students would go on to pass even more ludicrous free market education reforms. Vocational schools are an option if we truly believe the only purpose of education should be to prepare students for
Dude,
the job market.
I would love
There's a
to
lot
learn
to
how
be
to
said
weld.
for
That
picking a
would be
trade and
dope.
excelling in it. Electricians, welders, AC technicians, these are all critical roles in our society. One problem with vocational schools is that they typically come with a tuition, which can be a difficult burden for many families. Homeschooling is another option, though in the US, it often carries a similar connotation to private
Welding
schools.
just seems so
Many
so
homeschooled children
awesome.
come from very religious backgrounds and are kept separate from other kids their age, which can lead to serious developmental issues. That being said, there are plenty of homeschooling programs that include on-location learning, such as in museums or on community college campuses. This offers a more diverse, hands-on experience for students and can provide an excellent learning environment depending on the child. Now, that right there is something we don't discuss enough in the US. Appropriate education depends on the child. We don't all learn the same
They
way.
meet people where they're
Some
at. It's like the
students
most
learn more
basic
quickly than
thing.
others.
But
Some
like when you
require
have
hands-on
a
experience.
standard
Some
box
learn simply by
education
watching or listening.
program, then
By
yeah, you're
creating
just
one
gonna have
single
that.
standardized educational template, we're trying to standardize a whole
This is pretty
spectrum
good.
of
This is a good
humanity,
video.
and that just doesn't work. There are some types of education, such as those found in Montessori schools, that try to foster a more diverse learning environment, allowing students to learn at different paces and having
There's
students who
problems with
grasp
Montessori
subjects more
though.
quickly work with those who are struggling. This allows more room for personal growth, but also fosters empathy and interpersonal skills. The jury is still out on whether Montessori schools are strictly better than more traditional education, but some studies seem to say pretty conclusively that their students fare better than those in
Like the
standard
problem is
schools.
having different kinds of schools for
Overall, the
these
moral
things
of
when
the
you should
story
be
is that, like
having
always,
these methods
privatization is
integrated
harming the
into the general
majority in the
education
pursuit of ever
system.
greater profits. The defunding of public schools has caused our country to slip further and further behind our peer nations. Our inability to keep up with the times has produced students who are woefully under-equipped to compete with students from other countries. Even from a
I
capitalist
don't like that framing, that sort of like equipped to compete with other countries. Like, no, you just need to fit into the world, or like I don't know. That the frame of like competition is one that's rolled out in education a lot, and it's not good.
perspective, it should be clear that our education system isn't working. And maybe that's the point. Maybe for the ruling class, it's desirable for the average American student to fail, so that they're forced to take the lower paying jobs that generate huge profits for their executives. Whether that's the case or not, I think it's safe to say that we cannot expect the federal government to solve the problem. For at least the past 40 years, they've been completely controlled by massive corporations, and will continue to trend towards suicidal free market non-solutions. Instead,
Yeah,
I would suggest
definitely,
that education on the community
definitely
level
can agree that the free market isn't going to fix any of this shit.
could be a worthwhile endeavor. If we expanded the idea of homeschooling to include other members of your community, we could create localized educational templates that not only allowed for more individualized expression, but also catered towards the needs and unique perspectives of each community. Local experts could teach small classes in their respective fields. Students could learn the history of their town, city, or region.
Yeah,
Parents
that would
could
be
build a
dope.
network of
Like
trust,
actually
all
learning
help
about
supervise or
like
teach each other's children, which in turn
things
would strengthen the
practically would
community,
be very
fostering
good.
cooperation, friendship, and empathy. These communities could engage in sort of small-scale exchange programs, day or week-long trips where students could experience the realities of different communities, which would provide them with worldly experience and a refreshing change of pace. We tend to get stuck in the notion that what we have now is the only possibility, whether that's in regards to healthcare, entire economic systems, or education. There are so many improvements we could make, so many possibilities worth exploring, and few are more important than how we teach the next generation. More and more often, young people are turning to alternative sources for their education. YouTube is a great one. I've learned a lot just from watching videos on topics I'm interested in.
You know, that's kind of a problem too, because like YouTube, if YouTube is like filling the space of where the education system is like flipping, that gives YouTube like a business opportunity to like contract with schools now.
Another great place to learn about all sorts of interesting topics is CuriosityStream. If you like
All
today,
right, well, I'm not gonna run your ad, sorry. Definitely check out Second Thought. Yeah, Second Thought on YouTube. They do a video just about once a week. And this one was pretty good. Your friend is a head teacher and she works very hard to give kids alternative learning opportunities. She's been suspended for 3 months before the pandemic. What? For like doing different stuff, or like doing things that are not like part of the quote unquote like curriculum or whatever. I know that I got written up a couple times for like what were sort of perceived to be like not normal practices when I teach special ed, and like I'm sort of like putting multiple plans together to meet kids where they're at, and like my principal just did not understand and did not care because I didn't do it the way that she liked it. Yeah, that's BS. I actually got in trouble for that video that I showed earlier, but like it's been really wild. Yeah, where are you at, like generally? Anyway, I think that's going to be it for today. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all so much, Ginny and Jenny, for being in chat today. Yeah, share the show, folks. Share it with folks so that they can be a part of it. I think this one, Liverpool. Oh, nice. But yeah, it's really nice talking with y'all in the morning. It's hello, Zo Chi Min. Is that how you say that? Thank y'all so much. I'm gonna go ahead and send y'all off to good old Andrea, who is starting her stream probably right about now.
The curb, get him rusty, put him in the rain.
Here we go. Just tweeted at me. Tweeted at me. I don't see any tweets. Oh, thanks, DS. Appreciate it. It was a little chill today, I think. Anyway, that's going to be it. Bye, everybody.